And here we are, folks. All right, so this is my second video for your class, actually. The last one I did last night, I uploaded it, and then on reviewing it and taking a look at what I have for you today, I decided that it was not sufficient. So here we are. I'm going again. And yeah, so let's move on. It's Friday. Thankfully, today should be the last day that I have to do things this way. And on Monday, I will be back in school. I will be past my 5 days. I will be free from the dreaded illness and, with any luck, permanently immune hereafter, or as permanently as anything can be. So, with that said, I kind of want to go over what I've got for you guys today in a bit more detail, kind of work with you more for a little bit of the understanding. The previous video was this real simple one where I was just like, all right, here's your work, go do later. And that's not that's not quite good enough for what I would really like to get across to you guys today. So, it shouldn't take too long, but buckle up and let's take a look at what we have coming. All right, so of course, in Schoology, are we projected? We are. Fantastic. All the way down to our COVID sick days, into the folder for Friday. All right, this video is what you're watching now, or at least that's what it's going to look like. That isn't what it used to be. And this is what I have for you guys to work on today. We're trying to close up this DNA unit, and for that we got to test out on it. I can't access the College Board AP Classroom from home because the password you need has to be like 37 characters long with capital and lowercase numbers and special characters in there, and I don't have a freaking clue what it was. So it's at school, and once I get back, I will be able to recover that and access it again. But this test is actually a pretty good one for that because most of these questions I was actually able to pull from other College Board sources. So I want to take a look at this briefly with you. As always, if you still have other stuff that you've got to get done, like, maybe the genetic engineering lab that only a couple of people have turned in if you did it virtually, um, stuff like that, practicing the study guide, maybe some of the review stuff from yesterday that you might not have gotten to, make sure that you do. But for today, we're really going to be looking at this practice test. Now, going into the practice test, number one, I can't explain the formatting. Schoology screws things up. Like, for instance, where are the answers for number one? They don't appear to be there anymore. That's news to me. Yeah. And then, some of the questions are split between pages. You get the idea. All right. So, what is it that I want to go over as we go through here since we can't do number one? All right. I want you guys to try to think a little bit laterally. Now, what I mean by that is all the notes we've been doing are about very specific. It's about terms, concepts, processes, right? All of those things. Well, now the questions like number two here are going to ask you to try to think around that idea some. So, just as an example, actinomycin D is an antibiotic drug that inhibits protein synthesis by blocking transcription. In some cells, the application of the drug does not affect the synthesis of certain proteins right away. Which of the following best explains such an occurrence? So it does affect them, but not right away. Words are important. So now let's check down what the possible answers are for why they're not affected right away. Is it because not all proteins need transfer RNA molecules for their synthesis? Is it because the proteins that are made using messenger RNA that was synthesized before the application of the drug? Is it because nuclear proteins do not require cytoplasmic machinery of ribosomes? Or is it because protein synthesis is blocked in the cytoplasm at the ribosome level? Which one of those would explain why it does not affect the synthesis of certain proteins right away? It does affect them, but not right away. Not all proteins need transfer RNA. The proteins are made with mRNA synthesized before the drug. Nuclear proteins do not require ribosomes, or protein synthesis is blocked. Hopefully, you said B, because that is correct. The messenger RNA, here's the key thing. Number one, blocking transcription. Transcription is the DNA to RNA transfer. So, very specifically, they're telling you right here what process it is stopping. And if you take a look at these, that means that number one, there's only two possibilities, A or B, because those are the only ones that involve RNA. And so, between those two, which one is more likely? Either proteins don't need transfer RNA molecules, which we've seen no example of, or that messenger RNA was synthesized before application of the drug. Letter B is far more likely. So, as you continue down through here, you are going to find some other questions that will ask you things about a process, but they're going to be asking you to look at it a little bit differently than simply definitions. You're also going to see a bunch of these like number 3, which are all going to be faced focused on the codon, on that 3-letter spelling and what works for it and what doesn't. Number 3 here is all of the following would support this hypothesis except. So you got to take a look at what that hypothesis is, and then as you go through the answers, find the ones that support it, and that's not the answer. You got to find the one that is the exception that does not support it. Right? So you guys will work your way through. I suggest sit down with groups, teams, discuss, come up with your answers, see if you agree on things. If not, like we've been doing, discuss it. Explain why you think it's the other one. And in particular, let the other person or people kind of explain their side too, so that both of you get that. So that if you are really convinced that you are correct, you have the opportunity to explain where somebody else may be having a misconception. Think about what you remember. If somebody just tells you something, you might remember it. But the time that your friend basically disproved what you really thought was right, we tend to remember those for a good long time. Anyway, you're going to work your way down, et cetera, et cetera. See, number 8 here is spaced terribly. Duh, irritates me. All right. So we're going to see some probability questions like the inheritance thing. Remember, it says and. So you're going to do the mathematical probability of multiplication. 3 children and getting only boys. So the probability of getting a boy is, all right, and it's going to be multiplied 3 times. You guys can get it. You're going to see a section like this, which is completely based once again on that translation step of taking the codons and figuring out the amino acids. Later on, you're going to see number 25 and 26 here are talking about amino acid table 1, which is here, but it's right near the end of the test. So you can go back and use that whenever you want for it. You're going to see some really weird questions. 27, make sure that you spend some particular attention on. 27 is one that I ripped directly out of an AP practice test, and it's the type of thing that they really like to ask about. When you get down to the end, the last page, There are 5 free response questions here. Now, because this was a test, it says choose 3. I don't want you to choose 3. I want you to be able to try to get an answer for 4 of them. Why only 4? Because we have not talked about Henrietta Lacks. We will. That's one that I'm kind of saving as I'm back in school for it. But Henrietta Lacks is a really, really unique case and something that grabs the ethical concerns of all of this biomedical research and the right to your DNA and your cells and stuff like that. And man, it grabs it by like the deepest part of doubt and fear. And we'll talk about that. But don't worry about number 4. If you want, though, feel free to look it up and read a little bit about her because it's awesome. Awesome, scary, unfortunate, but awesome. Okay, so other than that, you should be able to do number 1, you should be able to do number 2, number 3, and number 5. Once again, you probably don't have to write out a whole answer as this is a practice study test, but you should be able to come to a good answer as a group together. So please try to make sure that you are spending the time to get this stuff done and prepared. Okay, so that is a much, much better video than what I had originally. I hope it helps you guys and kind of frames the brain place right. I'll see everybody on Monday. I hope you have a great day and a fantastic weekend. Do something stupid, but not too stupid.